Gold is doing different things this year than it did last year, and it's quite an interesting story. So let's start with that.
Yeah, well, last year, gold and silver started off, along with equities, just pulling back the first quarter of last year. And the dollar was strong. Dollar saw an increase of about 20% by mid-year. And then the last quarter of last year, the dollar weakened by about 10%. Gold increased by about 10% to the point where at the end of the year, it was flat. It's like nothing ever happened from the start to the finish. And silver was actually up about 2-3% at the end of last year. So both metals last year vastly outperformed the dollar stock indices. They outperformed the Dow by 9%, the S&P by 19%, the NASDAQ by 33%, and Bitcoin by 64%. So that just being flat, holding on to what you had last year versus losing a lot was a winner for gold and silver. This year, starting off a little differently. I think both the equities markets and precious metals kind of saw slightly better inflation data. Sure, the CPI is still at 5%, so it's terrible versus last year, but it's trending down year on year from each month to month. So that's suggesting that maybe what Powell and the Fed are doing is helping, right? And it also suggests, since they haven't really broken anything just yet, that maybe the Fed was going to pivot or pause or do something. So the markets were getting emboldened. We saw the equities ticking up. We saw gold and silver ticking up. Gold was up about 5% so far this year. Silver's lagging, but gold is definitely showing some strength as the dollar continued to weaken.
Rich, every month you write for us for Escape Artists Insiders magazine, and at the very last day of the month, the close of business day, you provide us with a chart.
Yes.
It gives us how gold and silver have performed along with other markets. And the end of last week took a bit of a different turn.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's funny. I sent the chart over for the February 1st edition, and it was positive. I mean, gold and silver were up year on year. I think it's like the first or second time now. For the past year, it's been lagging the equities markets and catching up, if you will. But this past edition, gold was positive, silver was positive. Gold was up 5% so far this year. And then the next day, everything turned. Right. So you wonder, oh my God, what happened? Because the dollar had weakened from like 114 last June. It was down below 102 on the index. The gold, like I said, had been up about 5%. Silver was lagging. The equities markets were up. And then all of a sudden, it changed. So on the 1st of February, 2nd of February, we saw big changes in the metals. Gold and silver were down 2% in a day. And the US dollar was up about the same amount that quickly. And a lot of people look at different reasons why. One, they thought, okay, maybe there's some profit taking going on here. And I'm sure there was some of that. Some of it was due to the trickling down of the inflationary numbers. So it looked like what the Fed was doing was working, but also the employment numbers came out for January and they blew away expectations. I think they were looking for about 180 some odd thousand jobs. They got 500 some odd thousand jobs. So, here the thought all along was we were going to break the employment market, and it's actually getting better. So now everybody's worried, oh my God, let me pull my money back off the table because the Fed's going to keep going with rate hikes, right? So that's part of the thought process. My gut feeling, whenever I see gold move that far down that quickly in the span of just a couple hours, I right away look to the dollar and I say, okay, what did the dollar do? And it was up in the same amount of time by about the same amount. And I'm thinking after, 4 straight months of dollar weakness coming down to the point where it's below 102, I got to think there was some intervention there. And that's not a conspiracy theory on my part. Governments do intervene on behalf of currencies to support them. And I'd be surprised if they didn't do that here. And that wasn't part of it. I don't think it changes the narrative of it all at all. I still think this is going to be a fantastic year for precious metals. If anything, I think it just got better for gold and silver buyers. They got a little bit stronger dollar, a little bit lower gold and silver price than they ought to. And I think there's a bit of a sale going on here prior to Valentine's Day.